Hi, this is Lisa from Question the Narrative. Welcome back, Honey Golden. How is everybody today? And Honey, how are you doing on this 3rd of July?
I'm good. I'm excited for tomorrow.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're 250 years old tomorrow. And since everybody knows I live in Italy, we're older than Italy, but the Italians don't want to even look at it that way. But I think we're a little bit more mature than we realize.
Mhm.
What do you think's gonna happen? What do you think about tomorrow and the celebration we'll be having?
I think it's going to be really exciting. I think a lot of things will happen. Now, I don't expect to see massive, like front facing, I don't know what you would call it, like UFO disclosure. I don't expect to see some crazy thing happening, but a lot of declarations is what I see. And a lot of things that are going to just basically open stuff up.
Mm,
And most of
mm.
them have already happened, but I think that they'll be talked about a little bit more
Mm.
tomorrow.
Well, it's so interesting you said declarations and things that are happening on there because I mean the 4th of July, I'm first of all, I'm super proud to be American and I still am, and that has not changed. And I think especially having lived over here in Europe for a while, realize how much more freedom that we've had of thought. And of course, we as humanity have had more limited freedom than we thought, but Americans have more freedom of thought and potential than I've ever think. So I'm super proud to be that way. But one of the things that I heard, and this is coming through a variety of sources, and even I think Gene Decode said this as well, is that the Supreme Court abolished the income tax. And it was not um, put out in mainstream media, I know, excuse me, but it was supposedly leaked by some supposed very young person who was working with the court and put it up online, and then they took it down. So is that true? Is that a declaration that's true, honey?
Yes. Yeah. And I actually saw, I think he was in charge of the Fed maybe for a while, or he's the Treasury or something. And I can't remember his name, but he's in
George?
charge of, he wears glasses. He's probably like 50. I don't know.
Well,
Anyway,
there's only a few.
that guy. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure. Keep going a little bit. Maybe we'll catch on
Yeah.
to who it is.
Kind of curly hair, gray. Anyway, so he basically said that if you want to pay less on your taxes, then you need to go and alter your W-4. So change how
Thanks
much
for
you're
W
giving.
form.
And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So they're really trying to let people know that it's not going to be happening. I think Trump will be the one who announces that income tax is not happening anymore. Will he announce it tomorrow, or will he create a pathway to announce it later? We'll see, because all of that is up to us. But we are in a huge split right now. So it is time for a lot of stuff to start to really happen.
Because actually, what you're saying too, first of all, I get that is really true because it comes from multiple different aspects of it. And it was disclosed by someone who put it out on the docket. And then they said, oh, well, that person now is no longer able to, is fired and put on leave. But of course, they want it to get out. Things don't get out unless they want it to get out. It's very unusual to do that. But I think what you're also saying too is that we have a choice to believe it or not to believe it. And that is part of what the split is really all about. It's that do I empower myself in my own sovereignty to believe that and embrace that?
It's huge.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so these declarations, I think it's going to be very interesting what you're saying because I do think that there is I think there's a resurgence of pride of being American to understand that actually maybe we've gone through the dark night of the soul and that we're coming out. And yes, we're going to have some of these other things, but I am starting to see, I don't know, there's a campaign right now that is out there on social media supporting World Cup. And the narrative of that campaign is, wow, we didn't realize what America was like. It's really great. It's not what the media says it's about. So, honey, what's that one all about? Tell us about that campaign.
Well,
Who
that
did
was
do it again?
completely engineered by the White
Mm-hmm.
Hats. And I think they've inspired people in different ways to talk about it. And maybe even ETs or the universe is inspiring them as
Mm.
well. Like they're getting messages like, oh, I should go talk about this. Like it's so different
Oh,
than what
interesting.
we've been
Mm-hmm.
told.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's all coming in and bombarding these people that are actually having fun in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think what that's going to do is that's going to heal the gaps. It's helping to
Mm-hmm.
heal the gaps so that they won't be freaked out when America takes more control of things. And then eventually they'll be kind of working with America a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
So we have
Mm.
to figure out how that's going to go exactly. But I think
Yeah.
several countries will actually become part of America in
Well,
the
we're hearing
future.
Venezuela is supposedly our 51st state now.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. And we're no longer going to be renewing the NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, which was with Canada and Mexico. But when they say something like that, does that really mean that you don't have an agreement, a trade agreement, or are they just part of America and you don't need it anymore?
I think they're actually already part of America. I think Mexico's been more wonky, like whether it's going to be or not going to be. But I think Canada has been, I get for over 6 months, it's been
Hmm.
part of
Hmm.
America. Um, and I think that Hawaii may actually become more independent, and
Hmm.
Australia and New Zealand may become part of America.
So
And
the
then Europe
Commonwealth.
will, yeah, so it's going to be really interesting the way that countries reorganize themselves. And then
Mm.
eventually it'll just be, oh, well, this is my area. And maybe we'll call it the I live on Earth in the province formerly known as whatever,
Yeah.
but we'll see how it goes, but it's going to evolve.
So that's really, really exciting because like when they say certain things, it doesn't necessarily mean what it meant before, but
Mm-mm.
it does sound like there's an organicness about this narrative shift and support of America. And it because America had to go through it first, because America was in real, I mean, we were the brute force. We were the muscle behind what was going on from the Vatican to what was going on in the city of London, which was the forever wars and making money off of war and creating the loosh. But then that comes back into this whole idea. So we needed to create this new narrative and make America, and as you said, great again, meaning that knowing that the American people are truly amazing. And it sounds like the narrative is bringing people together, which is really important in this stage of the movie that we're in. But let's talk a little bit about one of these other ones, because it's a shift and a split, but also could it be a timeline shift? And what does CERN have to do with it? Because we keep on hearing over and over, CERN shut down on the 29th of June, and that things are shifting, and that, oh, that Mandela effect that you thought, that was an alternate timeline, just like Fringe. Do you know that show that was on FX, Fringe? It was like all these alternate universes. So first of all, is it important that CERN shut down on the 29th, or is it just another one of these things that's happening?
I think it's important that they disclose that it's shut down because I got it was shut down a while ago, but then we will switch into another timeline and all of a sudden it's working again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the majority of the time, it's probably been shut down since 2023, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But it's important that people know it's shut down and think about all the press that comes out of CERN. You get to know that there's a multiverse. You get to know that there's portals, Like there's so much disclosure that comes out because they're closing it down and they're bringing attention to it.
Hmm.
So to me, that's the real most
Yeah.
important thing
Yeah.
about it. How much did it really affect what we're doing right now? I feel like the universe has an override button and can shift that whenever it wants to, but it definitely had some effect on some of the 3D like break-ins, is what I call them, like with Lahaina and with the other fire that was in the Palisades,
Hmm.
some of the really very visibly nasty things that have happened. I
Hmm.
feel like some of that is timelines breaking into other timelines.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, it makes people more aware.
Wow. No, this is really so it sounds like it's extremely important in terms of the development of our awakening and understanding what's really sort of happening on there. But
Mhm.
CERN, how much of an impact did CERN have on our reality in the first place?
Again, it had quite a bit of an effect at first because what they
Hmm.
were trying to do is basically stop the awakening. And I get it affected where it's at, and I don't remember where it is, but wherever it's at, it affected that area quite heavily.
CERN's in Switzerland. In
Yeah, so
Switzerland.
it affected them a lot, is what I'm getting.
Um,
Because I can
so,
see
and
it
would it be
like reverberations going out from it in the past.
okay? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That makes a lot of sense because when Switzerland is sort of the central point within Europe. And so if it was locally for Switzerland itself, would it be most of Europe that it impacted or just mostly Switzerland itself?
I get a lot of Europe was impacted, but Switzerland was
Mhm.
impacted the most. So just like with EMFs, and so like if you live next to a cell phone tower and you live like right underneath it, a lot of people that have that have autoimmune diseases, they have a lot of issues. But the further away you get from that tower, the better off you are. So
Got it.
to me,
Yeah.
it's like that. It's like the closer they
Mhm.
were, the more impacted they were.
Wow. So that makes a lot of sense for how, I mean, we've talked quite a bit about how Europe is in a very different place in this awakening than other parts of the world. So it sounds like CERN really had an impact on them. And how is it shifting now for those in Europe?
Well, they haven't been influenced by CERN for a while. So they're actually shifting a lot. And they've been pushed like really hard to awaken.
Hmm.
And now the universe is pushing everyone. It's like wake up or go home
Now,
kind of
this is
thing.
important what you just said. Wake up or go home. And where is home? Let's tell everybody where home is.
So, home is where we all come from because we are a spiritual being. We are a consciousness before we are a human. So, we're a spiritual being having a human experience. And a lot of people are going to go home and not have their human body anymore. So they're going to be leaving, and that's going to also shift the energy. So
Hmm.
everything's going to speed up a lot faster as they start going, and they're going now, like it's happening now. But
Yeah,
remember, it's a transition, not, you know, a tragedy.
right. And this is what's really, really important. I'm so glad you said it that way. Wake up or go home, because aren't we really in this mass awakening now?
Mhm. Yeah,
And
we're
what does that
so
mean? 'Cause
deep in it.
yeah, like, okay, so let's go into this whole thing. It's disclosure after disclosure after disclosure. We just had the US Congress say that they will not using taxpayer dollars. And it was 100% approval of that. That's huge. So that means something. But we're getting disclosure, not just this whole idea of, oh, are there UFOs or what we people want to call alien races, but we're getting disclosure after disclosure about what's happened with the COVID vaccines, what happened with the COVID agenda, what we're seeing with our healthcare system, what the poisons in our food, the poisons that have come in through the sky,
Mhm.
everything that we're talking about. And then the real exposure of how we've been enslaved through this debt system, which is very exciting. So how is this going to be playing out? What does this look like right now in this mass awakening, honey?
I think eventually it's just going to be everywhere that people are saying, well, it looks like this is what happened. This is what happened to the world. And
Mm,
some people will be breaking down the medical system. Some people, and this is like news, some people will be breaking down the government system as it's changing, and they'll say, well, this is what happened. They took it over, you know. So I don't feel like we'll have as many news channels in the future,
mhm,
but we will have a lot of news coming out in kind of a flood. That's what it feels like. Um,
mm,
and I think a lot of the people that leave, they will blame it on the COVID vaccine,
mm.
even
So
though
they're
it was
talking.
quite a while ago.
Well, they always said it was supposedly 2 to 3 years after that. And so we're kind of like a little bit of
Hmm.
that. So where are we with that in terms of our health? Are we past that, or is that just one of those things that would have could have done that and it's a choice still again about what happens to us?
Yeah, it's a choice at this point. I don't think that anybody's got a really bad vaccine for a few years now.
Hmm.
Um, Even if they just decided, oh, I need that, like in the last year. But now so much is coming out, and also they've changed the childhood vaccine schedule, and there's all these things that are happening with that. But that's going to be one of the excuses that's used for why people, you know, left. Um,
Hmm.
but I don't know. It's going to be, it feels
Yeah,
like a
but
wild thing, you know?
exactly. But the
Yeah.
awakening is really, some people are saying that it's a jolt. So, as we've had an awakening where we've discovered step by step by step, felt isolated, but the processing, we've had the time now to process it. People now are going through it and it's like, boom. Can you
Mhm.
describe a little bit about what's going to happen and how we're all going to help each other through this process?
Yeah. So I know someone who had a parent who was in the hospital recently, and their choice was to go or wake up. And that person chose to wake up. So they woke up in the hospital and they had that download that, oh, the world is chaos. We've been lied to about everything. So that's the awakening that I see for a lot of people.
Hmm.
And some people are partially awake and they're going to have a bigger awakening as we go through this process. Um, and a lot of people are going to keep getting more and more gifts. But as far as us helping each other, they're going to be looking for mental and, you know, spiritual support and stabilization. So, you know, be ready to have those conversations is what I would say.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like that. And I see like little snippets, and
Mhm.
then I hear over and over again about people who are like, boom, and then they go out on social media. It's like, oh my God, this is what it is, and this is what you're like, yeah, I know, but that's we've known that for a little bit, but that's okay. That's good. I'm really glad you're
Yeah.
bringing that back up again. It's really, really, really important. But this is exciting, and also. I mean, exciting for those who are aware, but must be very challenging to process that because so many people, I mean, all of that data dumping is a lot for us to process what we've gone through.
Mhm.
Is it harder for the hard awakening Or was it harder for us who took it the slow route? Or are they about equal?
I think they'll actually be supported much better, the ones that are having this instant awakening, because so many of us were already awake. Um,
Hmm.
I think we will actually have gone through a harder awakening just because of the backlash from our own awakening, like losing friends, losing, and they'll have a little bit of that, but we're actually at the point where people that are not going to agree with them and that would pick on them and, not be nice to them because of what they're saying are actually getting ready to go. So they're not going to
Hmm.
have as much trauma after the awakening.
That's really good. Well,
Yeah.
there's still one thing about all of this that I think is really challenging for everybody to integrate right now, and that's the financial system. And it's the
Hmm.
repression that the financial system and the control that it's had on us. So right now, we're at a point where it looks like things are truly resetting. We're getting all of these little, things like with the tax system, with the fact that we have AI, and we've been talking about AI quite a bit, which is, for AI is going to take over jobs but jobs are about money. So what are you seeing right now is happening for the financial system? And how can we deal with that? Because some of those declarations that you started out the conversation with over the 4th of July may relate to
Hmm.
the gold reset and gold and what
Yeah.
gold has meant to, or gold and commodities has meant to humanity since inception here.
Yeah. And there's also a lot of talk about a trust fund.
Hmm.
So the trust fund conversation is more about the straw man, in my belief. That's what it comes, to me. So the trust fund will appear as a trust fund to a lot of people, and then they'll understand that they have their own trust fund. And that
Hmm.
was created maybe by the bad guys, but guess what? You get to keep it, and this bank is going to help you manage it so that you don't just
Hmm.
spend it all. Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there's that happening. The gold, it feels like the currency could even be announced, or there will be an opening for that to be announced, which will be the gold backed system. They've also announced all this quantum stuff.
Quantum,
So,
quantum, quantum. Yeah, this
yeah,
is really important what you're talking about
right.
here.
It's really important. So, they're going to probably, I can't promise they do it on the 4th of July,
Yeah,
but a
yeah.
lot of openings will be created for the conversation to go in that direction now. And the quantum system is coming in. So we have a lot of things that are changing. And the reason that they're changing is because the energy is changing, because anybody who cannot relate to going forward with new systems is exiting.
Exit stage left
Yeah.
right now. Is this part of the show? This is really interesting. But gold has had a really interesting place in
Mhm.
human society from the time when the Anunnaki got here and they wanted to mine for anatomic gold. And then through the more recent past with the Rothschilds and the bankers who the central banks who used gold as their assets. But also during the world wars, we saw massive movements of gold.
Mhm.
And what was happening was the massive movements of gold went from Europe, where, of course, it was a world war, but really it was the war of Europe.
Mhm.
And then the US got involved in some other things. And it shifted over to the US, and the US was the steward. Has it shifted away from the US? And is this an important structural shift, or are we just constantly getting more gold and this is normalizing now?
I feel like everybody's got some. So it's
Hmm.
been distributed. A lot of it came from the Vatican, like a tremendous amount, but there's been catches of gold all over. the place. And Venezuela pops in as one where
Hmm.
gold has been stored and hidden. There's a lot of, we have to remember how gold has been used against humanity, and also it had a curse on it. So there were some not so great ideas about why we're going to give the people gold because they didn't want to be enslaved anymore. So instead, they decided to enslave them through money. So that just kept kind of going. And gold had a pretty sticky curse on it. And that's been lifted. And
Hmm.
even the structural, like energetic feeling of gold is different now. Like I
Yeah.
never used to collect it or want to wear it even. I just
Hmm.
wasn't excited about it, and now I love it. So that's
Hmm.
shifted. Um
Hmm.
and I don't know. I mean, I feel like the whole gold thing, we're going to use it, we're going to love it. We're going to love it more for its medicinal qualities than the money.
Right, the
And
value of it, yeah.
yeah, and wearing it is also really healthy for the body, just like wearing silver or wearing copper. So all the soft metals are very valuable to the human body.
Yeah.
So all of those will be valued and worn, and then eventually we won't care about money anymore.
Yes, we get that. But right now, it's this massive shift that, and
Mhm.
it's a shift of our mindset as well as the shift of what's going on in the
Yeah.
financial institutions. But some of the things that are happening right now, once again, Europe is in a position where they are pushing back against crypto and about storage. So they've got the new MiCA regulations, which are just going into effect, which basically is that they're going to control the movement. So you can't use
Oh,
crypto to go shift around. So is this Europe's last gasp to try to control the flight of capital, or what's going on with that?
showing the corruption. So if you think about that movie, I always forget the name of it. But where they had everybody sectioned out in different groups, and they called it like section this, section that. And there was a girl with a bow and arrow, and she's fighting Cat, I think she was called, or Katniss or something.
Is this the Hunger Games?
Yes, the Hunger Games. So
Hmm.
they really were planning something like that. So Europe had its things that it was going to do to its people, and America had its own things it was going to do to, the people here, and all the countries, because they were all controlled, had some sort of role where they basically enslaved or screwed up the people, but it didn't work. But they have to show what was going to
What
happen.
happened? Okay. So with
Yeah.
Europe, what was the thing? Was it the financial control that you can't use your money? Because this is really interesting. So you can't
Yeah.
right now, there is so much more control, like starting a company, using your money. They don't want you to move it. Like Spain, I'm hearing, and tell us this is true or not, that you can't move more than 3,000 euros out of Spain or out of the EU. Is that true?
It feels like they're trying to make it law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
Not
just
true
fascinating. So
yet,
Europe,
but
yeah,
like on the
yeah,
books for later.
yeah. But this is interesting. So you've got the gold movements, and I still think there's something more about how the Rothschilds and the bankers were playing around with the gold, particularly during World War II, World War I and World War II.
Mhm.
I think that's interesting. But is there going to be, you feel like there's going to be this announcement of a quantum system at least,
Yeah.
or something at this point,
Yeah. And
which
I
is
think
very
it'll be just
interesting.
like we're moving into the quantum system now,
Mhm.
something like that. And he's not going to stand up there and define all the things. And he may make more than one announcement. I mean, just going on Instagram, all you see is announcement after announcement. There's
Exactly.
so much, happening. But I'm really excited to see what he does say in his speech tomorrow. And remember, most of the time it's more subdued than we think. And then you get irritated that he didn't stand up there and say, ta-da, we won, and all of this is happening. That's not really how people can handle it. I feel like it might be slightly more blatant than it normally is, but to
Yeah.
remember the aftermath is what actually counts.
Right. And it's the shift in our consciousness that happens when we start to hear those things. We're being seeded. All of these things are seeding our consciousness because now we're talking about quantum. What does quantum mean? How does it work? We're talking about CERN, we're talking about universes, and we're talking about the Mandela effects, the slight changes. So we're starting to understand the multidimensionality and superpositioning of what quantum is. And there are various cross references of there's a quantum computer in this world and who gets to control it. So it is very exciting on that. Now, honey,
Yeah.
I know you had a hard stop on this. Is there anything else that you want to talk about on the financial system or the mass awakening before we close out for the day?
I would say just be open and concentrate on your own world and making it better, and just be open to things shifting, and let go of any negative narratives that you have in your own head about things shifting in a beautiful way, because we're moving out of 3D, and that's where all that negative mind stuff came from. So if you catch yourself saying that in your head or saying it out loud, try and backpedal or say, actually, I cancel that. I don't want that to be my reality,
Yeah.
because it's time to welcome in the new financial system, all the new systems, and let these other ones just fall.
We had enough fun with those, right?
Yeah,
It's time for some new games. New games.
totally.
That's great. Oh, that's wonderful, honey. I think that's really good, but we are in a really positive things. And happy birthday, America. I think it's
Yes.
really important that we celebrate because we were that experiment of freedom, and I think we're getting back to it. So I'm
Mhm.
still very proud to be American, and wishing everybody a wonderful 4th of July. And honey, thank you so much.
Thank
This is
you.
Lisa for Question the Narrative. Have a
Love you
great one.
guys.
Ciao.